Welcome in. According to sources, got my guys, man, my wing players running this three-man weave. Got my guy Chris Cason at C4 Dunk, and my guy, the infamous one, especially on Twitter, B_Crawford D. Today we're going to be talking about the Chicago Bulls. They have hired a brand new VP. John Paxson is now a senior consultant. And Gar Forman has been given his walking papers, man, surprisingly to some people. But Arturas, let me make sure I get his name, because I've heard Cason and all types of different pronunciations and enunciations. But Arturas Karnisovas, is that correct? Arturas Karnisovas, I believe. As Billy Packer would say back in '93 when he was playing for Seton Hall. I believe that's what Billy Packer called him on CBS when he's playing in the NCAA tournament, and I believe that was the correct pronunciation given today when he spoke to the media. One of the most interesting things that I want you guys to touch on first is
I'm gonna call him AK-47 for the shot.
He said that he had spoken with Jim Boylan and I guess had a conversation about the style of play moving forward. Are you guys surprised to see that he might be willing to stay with Jim Boylan as the head coach?
See? I would hope not. You know? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I would hope not, man. Like I've been kind of like holding out any type of comment until I see the coaching move. Like for them to change the front office is cool, but I mean, I think all of the important stuff happens. So I'm just kind of waiting until I see what happens with the coach. But I think if they thinking about keeping Boylan, man, I can't get all in on this upheaval. I can't do it.
Oh, well, I think it's just more so as, all right, you're the guy that's currently in place. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to give you, an opportunity to see what you got. But I'm pretty sure, with him coming in and already making some of the changes that he has, he probably has, an idea of what he would like to see. That's why I think the talk about the style of the play was so important, because I'm pretty sure he has an idea of how he wants to play, and he's just like talking to Boylan, getting his philosophies and getting those across. But I do think that just the changes to the front office are it's a very big deal. To 2 decades, you had a regime basically that had lost trust within a lot of executives around the league, and now you actually have people that helps with agents, that helps with free agents, because there's no reason why, like in 2 decades, you could go back to like Ron Mercer, Brad Miller, like those are, I think it's a large step. The coaching situation, I don't see Boylan staying on. Elect to go a different way, whenever there's a true off season in play. But I don't look at this talk as like anything that is good or bad for Boylan, because I think at the end, this guy has an idea of what he wants and who he wants in place.
Well, man, when you think about that, Jim Boylan, to me, man, is the first person that should have been let go, in my opinion, if you were going to come in and really make a clean move. Right. In my opinion, that's just based upon what we know, the locker room, and how those players have felt about him before everything was shut down. Even from afar, Arturas should have been able to see, like, man, this locker room chemistry and the players not vibing with him, this is not a good thing. And why not let him go right now? You don't need a coach. The season might not even start back up. So right now, you might as well go ahead and just clear the decks, get everybody in there that you want. Maybe that's one of the things that he talked about. He knew he wanted to be done with Gar Forman. He said they disagreed on philosophy, which is funny to me. I mean, what's your philosophy? Build, and his is destroy. I mean, is that the difference? But as far as Jim Boylen, maybe just having the 1 year contract, the 1 year left on his contract, maybe that was something that he was willing to hold on to and just deal with. And if he feels he needs to make a change over the off season, he can still do that because there's only 1 year left on the contract. So he was in no rush to really deal with that situation as of right now. And if the season does start back up, they can just play out.
Well, yeah, and yeah, and don't forget, like, they haven't even, announced like the new general manager yet. So this
Right.
guy's just like, yeah. So I think once you get, the GM situated, he'll have an opportunity to evaluate Boylen like up close, and then you could go on from there. I just think that it's way too early in the process yet to just go ahead and fire a coach, especially with uncertainty going on, especially in the rest of the league. You don't know what coaches are available just yet. I mean, there's still coaches that can be fired at some point. So you just basically just take your time. There's no rush really for anything.
Wait,
right
so
now.
Boylen only got 1 year left? I thought he signed an extension.
Say it again, DC.
Yeah, I think the extension was only for 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
So he on his way out anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So moving forward from that, with all the moves that are being made, I want to talk about this Mark Spears. Very interesting dialogue we saw all weekend for the last 3 or 4 days when Mark Spears wrote the article, The Undefeated, just as the Bulls started their search for their new VP. The lack of diversity in the interviews. Once the article came out, the Bulls, through their beat reporters, did lay out that they had reached out to several Black executives for interviews. Some of those declined. Some of those actually had an initial interview and then declined the second round of the interviews because they felt like it was a token interview. Nazi Muhammad supposedly was also interviewed for the position. So I know it was built around what the Bulls were doing right then, but the larger thing, the larger noise or the larger issue is that there still is a problem league-wide when it comes to minority and specifically Black executives getting a real shot at running NBA franchises and running NBA teams. In your opinion, it's so funny because it reminded me of someone doing something that could be considered prejudicial or racial. And as soon as they are confronted about what they've done or said, they start to point out either how many Black friends they have or how many times they've done something for Black people or to help Black people. And it seems like that's what Bulls fans and the Bulls automatically tried to do by saying, well, man, we have Bill Cartwright as a head coach. And, we have B.J. Armstrong in our front office. And we had Kenny Williams on the White Sox side. And we hired Ozzie Guillen as a head coach. It's like, dude, those are all company men. Those are all men that answer to you, have played for you, and you are comfortable bringing in because they're not going to tell you anything different than what you want to do. So what are your thoughts about the article? And then do you think the Bulls situation was handled correctly as far as involving or being more diverse during the interview process?
Well, I mean, in the NBA, there's no Rooney Rule, right? So they don't really
Right.
have to do anything.
Right.
But, when you got a league that's like 80, 90% Black, you know what I'm saying? And you got a lot of ex-players who know the game, who know the business. You would think that if an organization, particularly like the Bulls, who have been painted as being like out of touch for like so many years. I think I seen something where Michael Reinsdorf had an interview basically saying they heard him that the Bulls was considered to be a racist organization. And I'm not saying that they're a racist organization, but what I am saying is that, you would think that for a team and a franchise as iconic as that, to have lost out on so many players because, the behind the scenes talk about how they move and how they do business is not lost on anybody. And, you know, you would think that they would try to get somebody more relatable in there to those players to be there, to be able to attract those free agents, to be able to build a rapport with current players. So like maybe they could, you know, do that. I mean, as far as them hiring, what was his name? JJ Polk from New Orleans, something like that. The only thing that was disingenuous about me was the fact that, you know, the fact that they announced it first. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to do it, just do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need, you know, the new executive vice president of basketball ops or whatever to say, yeah, we're going to hire a person of color.
Right.
Like, that doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no, it feels kind of this, we've been kind of listening to the chat or whatever, so this is what we might need to do, which to me signals y'all weren't really trying to do it anyway, but you feel like you kind of have to because of the backlash and the feedback that you've gotten. So, I mean, I'm glad that the brother got the job. Don't get me wrong, but, you know, if you're going to make those moves with sincerity and, you know, and, you know, out of the fact that that is the best person qualified for the job and not necessarily saying like, we got to put this particular face in that slot, then, you know, I think it makes all of the difference. So, I mean, like I said, I'm glad he got the job, but they just didn't have to announce it. If he was going to do it, he should have just did it.
Yeah, well, going back to Spears' article, I mean, this stuff that's been around the league for, I mean, well over a decade now. So, I mean, when I saw Reinsdorf's comment, like, you know, he couldn't believe that, you know, BC just spoke to them being out of touch. I was like, how could you not hear the rumblings about this organization for as long as they've been around and, you know, act appalled, you know, that he like read this stuff. I mean, lot, I've heard this stuff for years now. So I'm pretty sure as high up as he is, he's heard the same thing, or it's at least been, you know, intimated to him by at least some back channel, at least. But I think, you know, just it's still so early, just with this current regime. But I do think it kind of helps get like the bad taste of a lot of years of like just, you know, wanting more. You know, at least for Bulls fans, it helps wash that taste out because, you know, going back to, you know, Michael Jordan and how he was treated, you know, by Krause. This is like the reputation this organization, specifically the front office, has garnered. So to act surprised that, you know, that's what you guys are known for is kind of like ridiculous to me. But I think now they're starting over from scratch, you know. Is, you know, basically like he had just watching him the last few years, it looks like he had just gotten worn down just about all the negativity that, you know, it was basically just, it was becoming insurmountable about, you know, fans are booing at home games now. You got fans paying for billboards, fire guard pack. I mean, it just became too much now. So you really can't even do your job, you know, and like autonomy like you like. So I just glad that, you know, there'll be some good energy around this organization because it's been rough the last few years. I mean, and, you know, just being at games, it was only going to get worse. Like, you had less and less people showing up for games, more and more empty red seats. So I think hopefully this will be, you know, a step in the right direction, at least just from a PR standpoint. But I do think this overall just helps a little bit of just their reputation league-wise as far as it goes with other executives, agents, and which should potentially lead to free agents now giving like a serious look at the Bulls.
It's funny because you say that, you know, it's a different energy and a better energy around the organization and the team. And with that being said, this initially, of course, you react to this and you say, man, this is good. We're done with Gar Pax. We're definitely done with Gar Forman, with him being relieved of his duties today. But then you take a step back and you have to be patiently optimistic because it's very similar, in my opinion, to like reading a script for a movie. And you're like, man, this is really dope. Okay, this could be good, but who's going to direct it? You know what I'm saying? It's like, sounds good, reads good, could end up being really dope. It turned out to be a fantastic feature presentation. But who's really doing the directing? Like, who's really going to be behind the energy? You know, is the energy going to come from Michael Reinsdorf? Is he going to be similar to what Rocky Wirtz did for the Chicago Blackhawks when he took over from his dad? Joe Cowley was on ESPN 1000 and quite frankly said this is a Michael Reinsdorf presentation. Like, this is all him. Like, of course, his dad has the ultimate say. He is the boss, but this is his presentation. He's been given the ball to rock and roll, and let's see what he does. So I'm not sure, will the energy really be that much different, or will it just be like, okay, it's something new, but we have to wait to see if it's really different?
I mean, I think it's something new. I mean, the front office has been in place for what, 22 years? I think Gar Forman's been the GM that long. I mean, and so you basically starting from scratch with a guy that, people might be more willing to work with. A guy that has different ideas. He has a different vision for the front office, and I think all of those things are good. You know what I'm saying? I think the problem that we still have is, well, obviously Gar's out, Paxson still around, and he's not in official basketball operations. He's still a part of that franchise.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that may be. So to that end, that part of it hasn't changed. But I just think, just bringing in a new group of guys that people can talk to, people can deal with a little bit better. And, it may bring some new energy into that front office. I don't know, and it might bring a new energy to that team. Chris spoke to it like, for the past few years, like, man, it's been
bad.
It's been bad in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like the morale is low. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? The locker room is bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, and then really, like, when you look at the personnel, it's just like a bunch of guys just thrown in there together, you know what I'm saying, that don't even work. So,
Right.
I mean, and I think that's another one of the changes, too. I think they got to look at the roster as well as the coach. But I think, in terms of just bringing in this new blood and giving the front office a new identity is going to help them. I think the Lions going to kind of show whatever. They've been paying attention. They've been listening to what people is, people a different story. But, Michael Ryan's been around the team for a long time. He has a reputation as being a fan of the game. So maybe that'll help. But again, we'll see. Like I said, I'm really just waiting to see what they do with the coaching situation. And then from there, that's, that'll tell it all.
Yeah, I mean, and going back to what I said on like one of our earlier podcasts, just about Michael, like being the one that, as losses pile up throughout the course of a season, it can become a little bit like basically like clockwork. And, I would see Gar and Pax, not to say it didn't bother them at all, but I just saw them as, it's just going through the motions almost at some point, as if like, hey, we're rebuilding. This is supposed to happen. And it was just basically like clockwork. And I looked at Michael Reinsdorf. I would see him sometimes that he would be visibly frustrated. So I look at this situation as just his opportunity. All right, let's break up this brain trust. We'll have more diversity in terms of ideas actually in the front office. The front office will be a lot larger now as opposed to how it was. I think the Bulls had one of the smallest like front offices in the league, and now you actually have like a collection, like a brain trust in there where you have a variety of ideas and different personalities, different ways of thinking, as opposed to two guys that have basically become conditioned to basically running things a certain way, and they basically operated as almost in a we don't care, type of fashion. So I'm excited, to be honest, and I haven't been excited about Bulls basketball since damn near 2010, basically. So I think any positive energy the Bulls can get, you'll take it. But like BC said, you want to see what they do with the coaching situation, because once you bring in, whoever in terms of Bulls, because I don't see him lasting that much longer, but there's going to be like a new set of expectations now. Like, I don't think Bulls fans are just going to be, you have to basically give them something to like like latch on to. You know, it just can't be, you know, this front office. I think they'll evaluate things, but I'm just anxious to see what some of the first set of moves that fall into place after they get all of their staff in place.
Yeah, speaking of the roster, Arturas Karnisovas also said today, which was surprising to some, that he feels like Gar Forman and John Paxson have done a great job at drafting based upon the talent that he sees on the roster and how he's going to focus more on player development, because that's really where the ball has been dropped in the organization. Um, BC, I know you said you look at the roster and it feels like things were just thrown together. I was never, C4, you were patiently optimistic about the move. I was never a big fan of the Otto Porter trade at that point. I just felt like it was no need for it. Save your cap space. He was off injured in Washington. He's been off injured here in Chicago. And he's definitely going to opt in to that 20 plus million next year. So that's less cap room.
Save your cap space for who, though?
Yeah.
Yeah. You ain't got to spend on Otto Porter, though.
Yeah, but think about it. Like, would you rather like a guy that's got like 2 years of that left as opposed to just throwing that money into like three other dudes? It
No.
doesn't.
I'm
didn't matter for it. It kind of mattered.
I'm not even going that far down the road. I just felt like it was a bad move at the time. I mean, if you're rebuilding, then rebuild. It's like, don't just rebuild. Just be honest about it and rebuild. You were coming off the D-Wade move that didn't work out.
Bobby Portis.
The Bobby Portis, you had Jimmy Butler being traded. The point you were at, man, I just didn't think the Otto Porter trade made much sense for the direction that you were going in. Chris, I know you've been in touch or have had previous conversations with one Lauri Markkanen, and based upon the moves and the change of the energy, one would hope when it comes to player development, he would be one of those players that's positively impacted by this new regime and possibly a new head coach in the future. We've heard rumblings that he might not want to be here next year. Might even request a trade. Is that something that you feel like, from talking to him, that he will do or would do, go to the front office and request a move like that? Or do you think he's going to take a step back and look at all the moves that are being made and say, you know what, let me give it one more good shot and see if I can make it stick here?
Yeah. I mean, I think just looking at, really, he's not in I mean, he can request this development. I mean, Lauri's 7'1", spacing like 5-man, which makes no sense at all. The fact that there are literally beat writers in like post-game press conferences asking Boylen about getting him easier things, putting him in better positions to succeed, and he's still preaching, you know, his offense, this new offense. Like, it made no sense to me. At all. It basically took Zach and Lauri having a private conversation, be like, hey, we can't keep doing, I got to get you going, like, because, you know, I'm getting double teamed and I can't just have you, you know, sitting over there in the corner waiting for a kick out, because Lauri is way more talented than that. And I think fans in here in Chicago get frustrated with you quick, no matter what the situation is. So if you're the franchise basically wants to be the number one guy, but if you have that level of talent and you playing lackadaisical, or you're not basically doing anything out there, Chicago fans are going to turn on you quick. So I think this situation right here will give him an opportunity to sit back. Hopefully they'll restructure the offense at some point, depending on who's brought in or if Jim is brought in, because like that guy should be more pivotal. There's no reason why Kobe White should be more comfortable like in the offense than Lauri Markkanen. And Kobe White really doesn't like utilize the offense at all. Kobe White just basically is going out there and getting buckets on his own. But the fact that he looks way more comfortable out there then Lauri was it's like a serious issue.
I mean, I'm not a Lauri guy. I think he's okay. I think you could probably upgrade him. I think you can upgrade Kobe White. It's a lot of pieces on that roster that you can upgrade, but you know, again,
Are
you
you
talking
still
about
getting
Karnisovas.
trolled by Kobe White's brother, BC?
And that was ridiculous, bro. I didn't
Like,
know.
when did this happen?
You missed
Like
it,
2 days ago,
C4.
like he was like, it
Right,
was a
that's it.
conversation that
I've been trying to.
he wasn't even in, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking like, yo, like I know Kobe White ain't got no fans out here like naming them, you know, on no Twitter fans naming their last name White. So I look and I'm like, oh man, this dude look just like Kobe White.
Oh man, I've been
Like,
staying low off of social media, but
right. And then I look up, I'm like, oh, this is his brother. I was like, oh my God, fam, y'all really that lame like that in North Carolina? But yeah, man, I think marketing is safe, you know, just because he's a Euro. And I think, you know, Karnisovas is gonna like that. But, you know, to that end, you gotta bring in a coach that's gonna utilize him. You know, Lauri Markkanen took a bunch of steps back, and I know he was hurt or whatever like that, but his regression was like something I had never seen before. You know, like it was incredible. And, you know, I don't know if it's like confidence issue is, you know, if he's on it like Mirotic, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you saying he wants out, and
it's hard to get to that point confidence wise.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. Nico was the same way. Like, once your confidence is shot, it's over with. You know what I'm saying? Like you could go to another team in the league and might not ever be the same. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I think to that's a huge red flag. But you know, I just think that roster, man, it just don't work. It just
Yeah, I
doesn't
was
work,
shocked.
you know.
I was shocked. Karnisovas gave glowing reviews of the drafting over the last few years based upon the roster. I mean, they have dropped the ball as far as player development. I agree with that. But I don't know. And what shocked me the most is that the vitriol, I understand Gar Pax has been connected for a long time, especially from a media standpoint. But the vitriol towards John Paxson, in my opinion, is just like, all right, I get it. First of all, baseline, this man won 3 titles here in this city for this organization, period. That right there gives him a lot more flexibility with fans, or should, and the media, than Gar Forman will ever have. That's number one. Let's talk about the fact that Jerry Krause left this roster and organization in a pretty bad place when he was let go. Like, he had done a poor job post Michael Jordan in the MJ era. John Paxson drafted Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich, signed Nocioni, and in my opinion, I mean, the Ben Wallace signing wasn't the greatest. Kobe Bryant has even said that he was basically a whisker away from coming to the Bulls because of John Paxson. So, I mean, you look at what he was able to do and build up to the point that once they got Derek, they were able to really be contenders, and that was just, you know, luck via the NBA lottery. I thought he did a good job in rebuilding the organization post Jerry Krause and getting the players that can be a competitive team, like Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich, and Luol Deng. Now, moving forward from that, the transition from him taking a step back, going to Gar Forman, and moves that were made, especially once Derek got hurt, and going on to Jimmy Butler and getting rid of him. And I guess ultimately it's being reported that what made Michael Reinsdorf and Jerry Reinsdorf really upset with Gar Forman is the way he treated Luol Deng when they had his night. Was that this past season, right? C4? Yeah, and I guess in the bowels of the United Center, he was somewhat dismissive and disrespectful to Luol Deng. I mean, that coming off of the way they treated him when he got sick, and the way the Bulls physicians misdiagnosed him and he almost died, and all of that, to be dismissive of this man, I think was incredibly immature and just flat out stupid. For lack of a better word, it was just stupid to do that if you're the face of the executive branch of the team. Like, you're the general manager. You're supposed to be the one kissing babies, shaking hands, making everybody feel good.
Listen, man, they traded Luol Deng at midnight.
Yeah.
Like on what was it, New Year's Eve or like right around Christmas or something like that. The man mama was in town, his whole family was in town. Press release come out like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, middle of the night, he going to Cleveland. His mama crying like, yo, did you do something wrong? And this, that, and the third. Like, I mean, that was beef there anyway. You know that already. Like how you give somebody a spinal tap in the middle of the playoffs, man? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back just to show just how things had just deteriorated with just their like overall like perception around the league. I mean, you look at just those guys that you named, like you look at how they've been traded away or how they've, been done. You go back to the Derek situation of leaking, like, hey, doctors cleared him to play. It's all on that guy, so go talk to him.
Right.
Like no other organization does that to like their star players or the guys they view as like these are our guys. Like nobody left here really on good terms. You go to Derek, you go to Joe, you go to Ben Gordon, you go to let me think. You can go to Jimmy Butler. You look at that situation. Like nobody left here on good terms. Like everybody left with like some sort of animosity and things like weren't never really comfortable when they would come back.
Right.
So I just think also like removing Paxson and putting him in the senior advisor roles, it kind of removes that like link to those championships team, because I think so much of this organization, and rightfully so, is tied towards looking back all the time. We're constantly looking back at the Bulls. We're looking back at all the 3 titles, the 6 titles, the 2 3-peats. It's time to move forward from you're not going to get forward constantly looking back. Like there's not going to be another savior like Michael Jordan walking through that door that is drafted. So like now all the little campaigns that they run, let's start looking forward now, because constantly looking back is only going to build more frustration because you're never going to capture the lightning in the bottle that you had. So I think it's been time, but now I think the time is right now to like let's just start looking forward as opposed to constantly looking back and like having these there were good memories, but there's also so much bad taste that's been left in like most of the NBA circles mouth with just how guys were treated, how business was done, the things that went on behind closed doors, the way they treated coaches that came in here. So it's just time for like just a new regime and new way of thinking and a new way of doing business.
Yeah, let's look forward as we get ready to close out, man. What's the bigger hire, in your opinion? Is it the next head coach or whomever they choose to be the general manager?
Oh, most definitely the head coach. Most definitely. I mean, the GM, that's like really, that's back office stuff, man. Like, you want to have a good GM, but I mean that's not the guy like that's gonna make things happen like on the floor. And and we already talked about it. The biggest problem that they have is player development. So you definitely want to get a guy who is either a very good motivator who can hire a staff full of player development guys, or get a guy who is skilled at player development and and round his staff out as needed. Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, stuff like that. But I think the coach is really and truly gonna set the stage for like the next 4 or 5 years, because whoever you put in there, now you're talking about free agency. You know what I'm saying? Now you're talking about guys looking at the Bulls and giving them a serious look to see if they might want to go there. So, I mean, I definitely think the person on the sidelines, the coach, is way more important than the GM.
I mean, just knowing this organization, Gar Forman was there for 22 years. GM for me, because so much the last couple of years, the talk has been about building a culture. Like that obviously starts at the top. I mean, you look at the great organizations in the league, how well run they are. You go to OKC, you go to San Antonio, Miami. Like those are like organizations that have everything solidified at the top. And you normally see organizations that kind of have things like out of flux in the organization that translates to the product that's being put on the floor. So I think bringing in this guy JJ, I'm a little bit familiar with him, but I just definitely want to see what his philosophies are the coaching hire is very important, as BC did intimate, just because you go into, when you do have these conversations with free agents now, they got to be able to look that coach in the eye and trust him and actually believe in what he's selling. So that's going to be important. But I think just with the way things have gone in this organizations for the last, I would say 10 years, I think that GM getting that solidified and bringing in somebody that has like some very high credentials is so important, just to like actually help like establish, you know, a true Bulls culture. Because the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, the Hoiberg tenure, the Boylan tenure, there really hasn't been any culture. It's kind of been dysfunctional. So I'm just excited to actually see what this new GM brings in. That, like I said, it's just very good to have like positive energy just around Bulls basketball again, because, you know, New York has Broadway, LA has Hollywood, Chicago is a basketball city. So, I mean, basketball is dead here. Like, things really aren't going too well. So I'm just glad to have good energy around the Bulls again.
BC.
My bad. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Chris, man. Like, you know, Chicago is a basketball town. And, you know, I definitely don't disagree with the GM, because I think the GM is the one that sets the culture, you know, from the top down. You know, but again, you know, it's really going to be like a tandem thing. Like, you're going to have the coach and the GM. Like you cannot miss on that. Like, you can't miss on that, because you're going to set yourself back more years, you know, and you're already trying to do like a whole facelift for this organization. So they can't miss on that.
Yeah. Like I said, it goes back to my analogy of the script and who's going to be directing in order to make this script come alive and be a grand feature presentation that we all think it could be. Is it going to be Arturas Karnisovas ultimately deciding not only who the general manager is, but also having the last say in who the head coach is? You know, is he going to take the word or the advice of everyone that works under him and then say, okay, I'll rock with you guys and whatever you think? Or is he going to be the one to say, you know what, I hear what you're saying, but this is the direction I think we should go? Those are the things, and that's the energy I'm waiting to see, you know, how it's going to play out under his leadership here with the Chicago Bulls. So once again, you can go follow us, SoundCloud, iTunes, any other platform you can download previous podcasts, according to sources, with myself, SD2 Mics, my man to my left at B_crawl number 4 and D, and at Chris Cason as C4 Dunk as well. Both you guys, I know WJTV AM producer. That's what you've been doing, BC. And C4, you've been putting out some really good content over the last month or so, man, touching the things that you've been doing.
Oh yeah, just doing stuff with Forbes now and talking more so about the business side of things. I think the last thing I did was basically sat down with Thad Young and talked about, you know, his company, Reform Ventures, and the work he's doing in investing, the real estate stuff he's doing, and basically just looking at basically trying to help shift the narrative that, you know, when most of these guys retire, that they're broke in 5 years. There's actually a lot of athletes now that's basically looking forward to retirement by basically getting a lot of business done now. So it's been exciting. A lot of guys are very interested to, you know, showcase and talk about some of the things that they're doing away from the floor. So just another area to dive into.
All right, BC, you got anything on the horizon other than getting at the analytics people all over Twitter and being trolled by players, families of players?
How did you get that? What started it? I just want to.
I don't know. Literally, BC is carrying the trail.
There's no basketball. There's nothing going on.
Cam Cottrell and Cam, and we was talking about the new GM, and I think I might have just said something about like upgrading Kobe White or something like that. And the dude just popped in. I'm like, what you doing? Like, come on, man. But then I heard, you know, I talked to Eugene. He's like, you know, Eugene tried to get at him one time because Gino got mad that when OKC came back from 20, Kobe White and Wendell Carter Jr. went and took a picture with Chris Paul. And Gino didn't like that. He's like, man, y'all can say that for after the locker room. Like, you ain't got to do that on the court.
Right.
And he had something to say about that. So, I mean, he definitely under the, protect little bro act. But, man, I'm from Chicago. Like, you don't do that, man. Your brother is in the league, not you. And he ain't worried about what I'm saying at all. So, what you talking about, man? Stop it.
Man, as I said before, man, go check out the previous podcast, man. We'll get back with, man, we're going to do something every Friday, something. We're going to try and put out more content this week, man, and really dig deep into whatever's going on. And before we go, man, we do want to send out well wishes, blessings, health, and prayers to everyone, especially first responders and everyone that is dealing with the COVID-19 virus and the coronavirus. We speak nothing but health and prosperity to you and the rest of your families, man. And hopefully we all come out of this on the other end, moving forward in our lives and being able to talk and speak with one another again. And our hearts go out to those who have lost loved ones. Carl Anthony Towns lost his mother earlier today. Yes. So our heart and prayers go out to that family and him. And that's hard for a young man to lose your mother, man. That's BC. I know that's something we talk about often, man. I know it's something that you still deal with, and something that you just never get over. It's something you never get over, man. So my heart goes out to the young man. Definitely.
Yeah, man. And I actually got the opportunity to meet, the Towns last year, like during the Super Bowl. It was like a entire weekend where spend it surround them and a couple other like people around sports. But man, like everything that you've read about Carl's mom is absolutely true. I mean, just like a firecracker of a personality, like full of laugh, full of love, and you could tell she's the backbone of that family. Like there really wasn't any moment where like she wasn't texting her son or talking about her son. So I can't even imagine what him, his pops, and the family are going through right now, because she was basically like the backbone of that family. So, just prayers up for them, man. I think just the good thing about the NBA is it is like a brotherhood. So you've seen Joel Embiid like tweet out at him, and I'm pretty sure a lot of players and team executives are reaching out to pay their condolences, man. But it's just tough, and it just reinforces that this thing is serious, and it can touch anybody. So I think it just reinforces everybody to take it more seriously. Abide by the ordinance, stay at home. Only go out if you need to, and basically stay safe, and cherish your loved ones even more.
Absolutely. Hey, man, as I said before, man, we'll talk to you guys the rest of this week, man. More content on this Bulls situation moving forward. And a big night for Chicago coming up Sunday night on ESPN. Huge night. It hits different for us. I know the rest of the country is excited about watching this 10-part documentary, The Last Dance with Chicago Bulls and that dynasty, how it ended. But it hits different from us. I can't even put it into words what it means to us. But
no, you can't.
You can't put it into words what it means to us. But we want to move on from it. Like, we want to watch this and move on, because I do not want the Chicago Bulls to end up like the Chicago Bears, where we're pointing back to '85 and it's 2020. Like,
right.
I'm not trying to have that happen, man. Chicago is too much of a basketball town. So let's go. Let's run with the Bulls, man. Let's get this thing done. For C4 Dunk, Chris Cason, and for B_Crawford, D Bryan Crawford, we bid you adieu. 3 dudes who love the game, from the game, talking the game. We're out.